Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for joining our fifth and final preview of Royal Ascot, looking at day 5, of course. Another really quite interesting day. Big fields, talented horses, and quite a lot of betting angles to get stuck into. Ground looks like it's going to continue to be good to firm. It's still absolutely scorching right now, and it should be very fair racing from a ground point of view. But obviously, the draw bias, going to have to see how that unfolds today, and that will obviously be informing a lot of our opinions and selections. But without further ado, we'll start with a race which actually probably will be affected by draw bias quite a lot, the QE2 Jubilee. We'll then follow it up by the Hardwicke, and then a quick mention to the Chesham, and then Daniel will take us through the Jersey. So the QE2, starting with the French favourite Lazat. So he is one of the favourites that I'm most keen to take on of the whole week. I, in fact, probably don't even think he will go off favourite. I think Sharon might go off favourite. He's only run over 6 furlong twice. One of those was actually 6.5 furlongs, and both of those had soft in the description. It's going to be very different to 6 furlongs rattling fast ground to Ascot. I'm also not overly impressed by the form of the French horses that he's beaten comfortably. The only thing in his favour is probably the time in which he did it, which was very impressive. But again, it wasn't on a good firm surface. So, yeah, plenty of question marks for me about Lazat. Do you have a different opinion at 3-1?
Yes and no. I believe he belongs, up at the front of the market. I mean, he's hugely exciting. His Maurice de Guise 6.5 furlong win last year that you referenced. I mean, he blew that field away, and there were some types in there. But both that and the Chantilly race last time, where he broke the clock, really, really impressive speed figure. Yeah. These sort of, same-ish straight French tracks, home ground. He's now coming to a race course he's never been to, a country he's never been to, taking on a huge field of hardened 6 furlong sprinters. And it's going to be very different for him. And I get he's either going to really impress again and could be a winner, or completely blow out. And so that's what I'd say about that. Yeah, like you, I won't go there. I won't go there at 3-1.
Yeah, we did see he could handle his travel when he went down to Australia and ran a fine race in behind.
Yeah.
Forest.
Just beaten by Lake Forest, who was been run very well on the Queen Anne, but that's another matter. Yeah.
Okay, so lukewarm to quite cold on Lazat at 3-1. Next in the betting, we've got Sharon at 4s. So course and distance winner last year, winning the Commonwealth Cup, which was also on very similar ground, which is obviously important. He is a pretty rock solid horse. His form tailed off towards the end of last season, but his comeback was you couldn't really be happier in the Duke of York. He stayed on strongly. He was up with the pace, and he battles back against Four of Bermuda to hold on for the win. Concerns for me would maybe be the trainer form, 2 from last 30, but I think he's got the least question marks about him 4-1. I know if he was a point or 2 bigger, you'd be interested in the each way angle. But at 4s, will he be leaving?
Like you, I'm so keen on this one. He's one of the more likely winners, and you'd feel he was almost absolutely nailed on to run his race. Second star, he clearly wasn't fully wound up for his debut return, which was a decent race. Still won it, and it's very difficult to forget how he blew the field away over course and distance in the Commonwealth Cup last year. So it really is a case of what not to like. He's drawn high, which I like. The way the track bias is going at the moment, time of recording before day 4, day 3 really looked like you wanted to be high on the straight track in a big field. But like you, I was when they priced it up 48 hours. I was thinking, okay, actually 5 places. I think I'm going to have this guy each way because I cannot see him out of the 4 or 5. But it's sort of shaven to sort of 4-1 and 7-2 territory. And maybe I'll leave it alone. But he's definitely one of the more likely winners.
Okay. We've got another international raider next in the betting, Satono Reve at 9-2. So we put him up earlier as an anti-poster about 8-1. He seems to have slowly been backed in as the UK market realises the strength of his international form. What's your making of his chances at the current price of 92?
There's the question, isn't it? At the current price of 92. We wrote an article about this guy, obviously on our website, theantiposter.com, more than a month ago now, saying that this is the bet for this race. And I really thought he was at 10 to 1. Because his form is behind the best sprinter in the world, arguably the best turf horse in the world at the moment, Kai Ying Rising. Beat narrow by him, then second against him, Group 1 in Japan in between. He's just ran 3 of the best races of his life, even though he's 7. That's no bar to a sprinter still being an absolutely crack sprinter. I see him as one of the most likely winners. Whether he represents value now in 92 compared to the 10 to 1 he put up is moot. And also, I think probably like when we put him up, I still see him as only as a win bet. I think he's doing it's something very different. The straight furlongs around a bend or whatever. This is different, but I think he's got the best form. And if I had to pick, gun to my head, who's the most likely horse to win this race, I'd still go the Japanese guy.
Okay, cool. Interesting. Stormboy, another international, no longer, formerly Australian horse, bought by Coolmore, trained by Aidan O'Brien now. So he has top level Group 1 form over sprint distances in Australia. I think his best running was 3rd in a Group 1, and he won a handful of Group 3s. Australian form tends to be significantly stronger than UK and Irish form over the sprinting distances. Came over for Aidan O'Brien and was very, very disappointing on his first run out. It was revealed after the race that he had hardly been galloped at Coolmore or at Ballydoyle. Which was frustrating for those who would have backed him, and obviously there was no warning beforehand. Aidan is Aidan, though, so you can never rule out any golf in improvements from that man. What do you think of him at 11 to 2?
Yeah, not at that price. I mean, he is interesting. And after his flop, he was briefly sort of 16 to 8 to 1 for this race and the King Charles III with the target not yet stated. And since this became the target, he's been backed and backed and backed. And now suddenly you're 11 to 2. And for a horse who was 9th of 9 last time out, that's a leap of faith. You're absolutely right that, a second tier Australian sprinter is an elite sprinter in Europe. Yeah. They've just got the best, or certainly far better than European sprinters. Hong Kong, of course, have their own powerhouse. But I don't want any part of him. But it will be fascinating to see. As you say, to say he hadn't even been galloped before the last race, I find absolutely shocking for punters. It's one thing to say, he's just ready to start back. The usual Ballydoyle will improve for the run, but to say, he got off the plane. Oh, by the way, we didn't even gallop him before putting him on a race course. That's just an insult to punters. Sorry, rant over.
Cool. A TV show popular for their rants was Top Gear. Top Gear is the name of the horse next in the betting at 8 to 1 currently. He's a horse that you like, isn't he?
He's a horse I love, generally speaking, and this race, of course, is contextualizing that. He's won his last 3. The last 2 have been by blowout margins. He blew away the Criterion Stakes, I think it was a G2 at Newmarket at the back end of last year, and everyone was thinking, whoa, we've got a new guy on this sort of 6-7 furlong block here. And then he's come out with this season and done the same to half decent French field. Saint-Gier is in from that race, was second to him last time, but was beaten multiple lengths. He now comes over here with trainer Christopher Head, very bullish, though he is glass half full or 3/4 full, frankly, trainer. But he's doing something different. He's no longer, potentially demolishing a small field. He's taking on, crack sprinters over 6. This is new. He's the wild card. I can see him blowing out. See him winning. Yeah. Perfectly decent win bet at around the 8s. Yeah.
Okay. Next up, we've got Flora of Bermuda at 10s. So from the Duke of York Stakes, her form is obviously very closely tied in with Inisherin. So is the gap in the prices too big with the stiffness of the Ascot course? There's a potential that staying a little bit longer might have helped in the York race and would help her potentially overturn the form. But is that counteracted by draw concerns?
Yes, counteracted by 2 things. When she was not declared for the King Charles III 5 days ago, we tweeted out immediately, this is a mispricing alert, Flora of Bermuda 20 to 1 is daft for this race. But that was 20 to 1, and she's now best 9 to 1. Is there any 10s out there? it's more less than half the price. And the other fact you mentioned, drawn 4 of in this sort of huge field of 16, 17 horses. I wouldn't want to take a risk on this one until you've seen that the draw bias has evened out. She might be completely in the wrong place, but very talented filly, and she's going to win a big one at some point.
Yeah, agreed. Might be one for Ascot at the end of the year. Drawn better. Elite Status. Last horse we'll talk about in detail before you go into some outsiders. So he's shown flashes of brilliance in the past, but I suppose even his lesser spotted moments of brilliance probably aren't quite good enough. Do you like him at 20s?
He is one with a massive race in him that can definitely be placed in this and possibly win it. It's just a question of whether he produces it. He's looked brilliant on a couple of times last season. His last few figures are 8th, worse than 10th, and 4th. It's a little bit of a leap of faith for me, but it's not impossible. He's not impossible.
Okay, yeah. For me, I don't think he's got the talents necessarily to win in this field, and then with his inconsistencies, the each way bet doesn't feel too attractive. But yeah, any of the outsiders then? I think it's 28 to 1 bar.
Yeah, I'd mentioned 4, of which one I will have bet and might bet again, and another one I'm thinking of betting. James's Delight would be really interesting. 2 big negatives, wants some cut, and there's no such thing as cut. There's only what Chris Stickles puts, and all of that is Clerk of the Course. 5 millimeters every night is just dried out by evotranspiration even before the day's racing begins. So I think that's James's Delight chance gone, together with a bad draw, low draw. Sagir, who was second to Top Gear, but there wasn't a fast run race. Sagir could be staying on, and I'd be quite interested in him, but he's got another of these horrible low draws, so I'd want to see that bias evened out. Great Generation, filly, wouldn't have thought she was up to that level until last time out. She beat 2 fillies well, Jabara and Spiritual, both of whom have won very well since. They're both really talented fillies, so Great Generation is a potential fly in the ointment here. She's the one I'm thinking of backing. And the one who I had backed is 50 to 1. Cheap pieces on for the first time. Not sure if he'll need it. Course and distance winner, Anaf. He's won some very good races over the years. I mean, sort of heavy, sort of top weights in handicaps, big pots out in the Middle East at stakes level. And while I'd never quite call him a Group 1 horse, he's an Ascot horse. He's an Ascot horse for sure. He's drawn high. I've got to back this horse at 50 to 1 each way. If you can get 5 places.
Yeah,
he's a bet.
Yeah, we saw the benefit of being an Ascot horse with Docklands winning the Queen Anne, despite being a fair few pounds short on the ratings and the rest of the field. So yeah, interesting. 50 to 1 outside at Anaf. As mentioned, Top Gear is a potentially interesting win-only bet. And then of the horses at the front of the market, we agree that Satono Reve is probably the most likely winner, with Enisharan the most consistent. That is a wrap on the QE2 Jubilee. And next up, we're going to talk about the Hardwicke 1 mile 4 Group 2. And it's quite interesting. It's got probably a lot of Group 1 nearly horses in. And leading the market is the old boy Rebels Romance. So clearly the Appleby Yard felt he was a stay this season in upping him a trip to 1 mile 6. He won that off a very slow pace, so there wasn't a huge amount of questions asked about his potential stamina, but they've decided to drop him back down to 12. He's got the classiest form by far in this field, having won the Breeders' Cup Turf. But are his age and stable form sufficient question marks to look past him?
Yeah, and the point should be made. You're absolutely right. There are many nearly Group 1 types in this, but there is one clear, full-on Group 1 type in this, and it's Rebels Romance in terms of his. He's now 7. Yeah, he's getting on. This season, I don't think any of his 3 runs. He was, really good again in the Breeders' Cup Turf at Del Mar, winning that. But his 3 runs since, beating the Foxes by a length in a Group 3 in the Middle East. That was a prep for the Meydan Shima Classic. He was only fourth in that, seemed to fade. And beating, Epic Poet over the extended 1 mile 6 last time out. Collectively, I get the feeling this horse is on the downgrade. And as you say, you chuck in the fact that Appleby and Ascot at the moment is a little bit of a warning sign. No, I'll avoid this guy. He can win. He's the Group 1 horse in the field, but I think he's got to be taken on.
Yeah. Okay. That's Rebels Romance, and for context, 5-2 is the price at the time of recording, which we are not fans of. Next in the betting at 5 says Al Riffa. So he is certainly one of those nearly horses. Since the 2-year-old season, he has only won once, which was in a very weak German Group 1. Personally, I'm not willing to give him another chance. I think they seem to think he prefers soft ground, but then campaign him internationally. So, yeah, 5-1, I think it's too short about Al Riffa.
Yeah, the little 5-1 that exists, he's kind of a line of blue on odds checker, isn't he? Like you, it's a mystery to me on ground, because his Group 1, in retrospect, a very weak Group 1, as a 2-year-old, was on soft ground, and his best run last season, not on the figures, but I think most people would say definitely, was length beating by City of Troy at Sandown in the Eclipse. That was soft ground as well. Then he goes after that race. Then he goes to Hoppegarten in Germany, wins his Group 1 last season on fast ground over this trip by 5 lengths. But I wouldn't even say he's racing against Group 2 quality or that. It was a really weak race. So he's too short. The cheap pieces are on, and I liked his comeback in February when he was third over a trip possibly too short. In Saudi, but 4th or 6th behind Sosi last time was pretty disappointing. Maybe he could take a step forward, but not that price for me.
Okay. Similar-ish profile is Ghostwriter. He is stepping up to 12 furlongs for the first time. Also a horse he hasn't actually won since his juvenile campaign. For me, you'd have hoped for better in the Tats Gold Cup, and also he's out of Invincible Spirit. I'm not necessarily sure that whilst there is stamina on the downside, that the step up in trip is going to bring out improvement for Ghostwriter.
Yeah, we agree. We concur completely. Juvenile figures, 2-year-old figures 1-1-1. Figures since 4-4-3-3-5-4-6. And suddenly you're being asked to take 6-1 on him on a competitive Group 2. Admittedly, those poorer runs that I mentioned were mostly Group 1s. He really was plying his trade at the top tier. But that doesn't suggest that he should be 6-1 for this. Expensive Wathman purchase. Maybe there's more on the locker. Just possibly, as you said, there is definitely stamina on the downside. So just possibly, he could be the one. But again, nope, not at that price.
Okay. Yep. Dislike for Ghostwriter. Space Legend. If you thought that was a dislike, you will. I think this horse is horrendously priced. Absolutely horrendously priced. I do not see any strong form. And I know we say the second to Calandagan, but he was about 6 lengths back, and the horses in and around him were not far off handicappers. He's run pretty terribly since. I think he could be about 5x the price, and I still wouldn't be interested. You're more positive.
Yes and no. I sent you. I texted you when they released the 5-day decks for this thing. I cannot believe Space Legend is 16-1. I think that's value. And what did you text back? Something like, God, pretty dodgy form. To which I replied, well, he was second in this last year. To which you replied, yeah, beaten how far by Calandagan, and there was nothing in behind him. Anyway, this went back and forth. This disagreement. Yeah. However, that was a disagreement, and it was a disagreement when he was 16-1. Now I'm more with you when he's now 7-8-1. I will just say in his favour, there are a couple more points. I mean, he's still relatively lightly raced. He's had one poor run back this season. He's going to improve for that. He's with Haggis, one of the greatest trainers in the game. And a couple of his other runs, so 6 lengths beating by Calandagan this last year. But in the Voltica, he disappointed some. He was only beaten a length and a half. Los Angeles, Illinois, King's Gambit. Decent horses there. I think this is a decent horse. I think he's got a decent shout of being placed. So I backed him the moment, that came out. But that 16-1 lasted sort of hours kind of thing. And he's not a bet. I wouldn't recommend him as a bet now, each way at sevens. But I can.
Yeah, okay. We'll see how he gets on. The next horse in the betting is Aasy, and if I could get evens on a match bet between the two, I would be massively, massively on Aasy. So there are obviously concerns about this horse. He's fairly quirky, and Jim Crowley struggles to get it right on him every time, including last time out when he disappointed. He likes, obviously, to be held up. And I was looking back through his form, and he hasn't run in a double-figure field since his debut.
Good spot.
This is quite a lot of horses that he's going to have to pass, and horses like Rebels Romance that do stay on. But I think they probably should get the pace, because there's quite a few horses that also like to be on the pace in this field. He's the best at the front of the market, 10-1 with that Sandown form.
Yeah, he was good on his return at Sandown at a big price. I was there today. I was surprised what a big price it was. That was rewarding. But then he disappointed last time over this trip and this sort of ground. He does occasionally disappoint, but otherwise there's a lot of consistency there. He's won something like 7 or 8 Group 3s. Has not done it at higher levels, but only tried a couple of times. He was second in a weak Coronation Cup a few years ago. I think he's the bet. I think he's a good each-way play. I really do. I don't think he's the likeliest winner. And in a sense, I'd be slightly surprised if he won, but he could. But I just think he's got a huge chance of placing. You can get 4 places on this with Sky, is that right?
And 365, yeah.
365, yeah. It's just a great each way bet, because I think there will be pace. I think likes of Rebels Romance doesn't want it to be a dawdle, and nor do others. So, yeah, good each way bet.
Yeah. I think Canterford likes to go forwards. And there are some excuses. They went at quite a slow pace, and the pace very much held up in his last run, and it was difficult for horses to come off it. So yeah, both quite keen on Aasy at 10-1 each way. Next in the betting, we've got Epic Poets. Do you like him at 16s?
No, he's had an admirable campaign. He's not up to winning in this, in my opinion.
Yeah. Sunway 18s.
Has proved disappointing. They've always thought there was a top horse in here, and he keeps coming back to the racetrack and keeps failing to prove it. So, no.
Okay. And then Palladium, very, very bizarrely campaigned horse. If you look at the last 12 months as a snapshot, some of the craziest owner decisions I've seen. He's been teed up for this race where he's just not going to get his grounds, isn't he? And he's probably also just not good enough.
I would agree he's not good enough. The closest he's had to getting these conditions was last year when he was 6th of 6 behind Rebels Romance in a weak Group 1 in Germany. Then, yeah, spell with Henderson. The only thing you're buying into with Palladium is that terrifying combination of Gosden's and Ryan Moore. Which is a really worrying set of connections to take on, but otherwise I can't make a case for this one.
Yeah, you can probably pick 2 more informed Royal Ascot combinations than Gosden with his older horses and Ryan Moore on board. Burdett Roads next in the betting at 25s. This trip will be a bit short, won't it?
Yeah, he's not up to this on the flat. A race this deep, surely not. Okay,
and then the next horse is a horse that we both are pretty keen on at 28, and that's Bellum Justum. The main reason for me is obviously his affinity to firm, fast ground, and also that second to Jan Bruegel at Goodwood is looking better and better. I think that's a really, really strong piece of form, and there are a lot of question marks about other horses in this field, and whilst there are still question marks about Bellum Justum, you're getting a price way, way bigger than horses I'd have him on a level pegging with. So interesting to me at 28.
I could only wholeheartedly agree. I'd even go even more bullish on this horse and say that he's an absolutely outstanding each way bet. If you chuck out anything to do with soft ground from this horse's CV, it looks completely different. He's a really, really good horse when he gets fast ground, and I'm gobsmacked to see he's the outsider. I backed him once, and he's actually longer now when I backed him.
Yeah.
I'm going to back him.
I have just backed him again before we started recording. Yeah, I think this is the third time backed him. Antipode's backed him when the markets came up, and then just backed him again. So there'll be a lot riding on the 305 Hardwicke Stakes. And yeah, is there anything else you'd like to mention before we move on?
Yes, it would just be rude not to mention, as we mentioned every horse in the field, not to mention the one remaining horse, Haggas Candlefield. I don't think he's good enough to play a part in this. But he's had his injuries. He's had sort of many sort of breaks of many 100 days kind of thing. But I think they think there's still a very good horse in there. Look, if he were to come home in the first three, it just wouldn't be it wouldn't be a great surprise. There are better outsiders who I do want, but he's no complete rag, is mine.
Yeah, and should be the pace angle into the race likes to make call. Okay, so Aasy, a mediumly strong pick, I suppose, at 10-1, and then a lot stronger. We've got Bellum Justum at 28, 3 places, and I think you can get 22s, 4 places. So, however you like, whatever your risk preferences are for placing between the two of those might be a good suggestion. So, next up, we will talk about the Jersey Stakes. Daniel, I will leave this to you because it is not a race I've gone through / have a strong opinion on.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? Only at Ascot do you have, races of sort of high caliber that people almost don't have time to get their heads around before it's, because there are no entries until the 5-day stage, and then you've got the madness of Royal Ascot and all the other 48-hour stages. So it's difficult to get your head around every good race. This is quite interesting in that the market's been struggling to find a favourite. Finally done so now. Remuse, 7-2. Sorry, could you pause? I've got a kettle going on.
Yeah.
Remuse, now line of blue, kind of best 7-2. Owen Burrows has run twice, has won twice, has impressed twice. So, it falls into this could be anything category. And it's the exciting, unproven but exciting status which the market likes. He's too short for me. I don't want him. You've then got a cluster of an interesting cluster of 4. Comanche Brave for Donica O'Brien. You've got Ryan Moore on board. He ran really well in the Irish 2000 Guineas. Got a bit of a bump. Could improve for that. 4-1 again. I think there's a bit of Ryan Moore factored into that. He won't be my bet. The one I do like, and I have bet about 10 minutes ago, in fact, before we started all this, is Marvel Man. Andrew Boyd, Oisin Murphy. Marvel Man was a decent 2-year-old, but without looking top draw. This season, he's come back with an absolute blowout listed win 5 lengths, which, the form stands up. And then next time out, it took Cosmic, I'm going to get the second word wrong, Cosmic Gold, Brave, Warrior, which do I want?
Yeah, it's a Cosmic. Cosmic Year's the third of the Judmont's milers.
4th time lucky then, all right. Cosmic Year, who ran so well behind Field of Gold in the Irish Guineas. I think some people felt he should have got a little bit closer, that he wasn't given the correct ride. Not that he would have gone close to winning, but again, given what Field of Gold has done since, and we know Cosmic Year is absolutely proper Group 1 class colt, and he took a long time to get the better of Marvelman over 7 furlongs last time at Newmarket. He's absolutely surefire to run his race, I would have thought, to be in the front few. He's got a high draw, which I like. I think it's a cracking each way bet, 5-1.
Okay.
It's a question of those which I haven't gone with. The very lightly raced Saracen, who was 3rd in that Newbury Guineas trial, won by Jonquil with Rashtabar 2nd. We'll see what Jonquil does tomorrow, but he's already done good stuff in France, so that looks like strong form. Saracen falls into the really exciting category as well. Obvious threat. California Dreamer at a double figure price, you get 12s with Labros. This one's interesting because the balance of its form was nowhere near good enough. But last time out, it was only a length and a half or 2 lengths behind Lake Victoria in the Irish Guineas, and that if she can repeat that form, she's absolutely a player here. It's just a kind of a question of where did that come from? How was she ever that good? So, yeah, I couldn't do that. Others, just a few to mention in the betting. Benevento was exciting some people for the Guineas after his craven fourth, but ran appallingly. Seagulls 11 also ran appallingly in the Guineas. Brian, one of the more interestingly named horses, was nowhere near good enough for this sort of nonsense as a year-old, but he's since moved to more and ran quite eye-catchingly last time out, so it's possibly not impossible. But the one I do like and have backed at a price, 33 is still available with Ladbrokes, and Coral, as I look, is again a daftly named horse. Yar Mo Be there. Once his Guinea's back, he falls out of the stalls, and then he gets a good whack by another horse who was second slow, so that's also for good measure. And he did make some ground up before fading. Maybe this drop works for him. If he can get away on even remotely decent terms, which is not a given because he has broken slowly a couple of times, I think he's overpriced. Really interesting outsider. So yeah, Marvel Man at the front of the market, and Yarmo Be there.
Right. Well, thank you very much for that. Quick run through the Jersey Stakes. And lastly, we will touch on the Chesham. So there was a short price favourite for a long time in the form of Trenmore. Has since just about been overtaken by the Aidan O'Brien's Moments of Joy. Obviously, he has mopped up almost every 2-year-old race so far, so there are no surprises there. Humidity is next in the betting at 6-1s. The Secret Adversary 12-1s, Venetian Lace 16s, Waterford Cost 25s, Brave Hunter 66s, Tell Gunner Joe 100s, and Zuta 100s. Moments of Joy, who do you think will go off favourite between the two of these?
Well, if you'd asked me even 2 days ago who go off favourite for the Chesham, I'd say you'd lost the plot to even ask the question. It was obvious to be Trianmore, one of the most exciting debut horses of 2025, Appleby Buick. And yet suddenly here we have Moments of Joy, run once, won once, suddenly shot of 3 potential entries, I think, at the 5-day stage. I think this is their only entry, isn't it, Ballydor? So only entry for Aidan O'Brien, Ryan Moore, Juvenile. They're sweeping all before them. And for some people, this is just a case of, well, it's the Ballydor horse. It wins.
Yeah.
And I can't really come up with a good argument against that approach, because this week that would have worked. Whether you looked at the form of your Charles Darwins or your Truly Lovers, or if you looked at their form, there was a form case to be made, as well as are they winning? Yeah. With this one, there's just it's the chosen one for Ballydor, which, by the way, their entry for this last year won by 10 lengths, bedtime. Yeah. So that's what you're going on. I can't bet like that. Well, I can bet like that if there's a half distance, but I'm not betting like that at 13-8. The form has not been tested. Nothing that ran behind her, including a stablemate who wasn't declared for this, has run again. So we have literally no idea how good that race was. And all we do know is that it wasn't run at a very fast time. So Moments of Joy could be anything. Am I going to put my well-earned money on her at 13-8 to find out? No. Don't want any part.
Yeah. And then if Signora goes in 25 minutes' time, you suspect it'll go off even shorter. And
absolutely.
Does that mean you'll be looking at Trenmore, or are you looking further afield?
I was, like many people, really, really looking forward to seeing Trenmore out next season. Was interested to see if he went for the Coventry rather than this. They've gone for this. Very exciting horse. But we've got the Appleby Ascot thing going on. We've also got a race which in the rearview mirror doesn't look that great. Now, he won it lengths and lengths and lengths, maybe 4 lengths. But the time was not fast. So it's not like we know he can run a really fast time over 7, which you probably will have to here. But yeah, those that have run back, the 4th and 5th, who were well beaten by Trenmore, have been perhaps even more beaten in their next races. They were nothing. The second back has come twice. Come second twice afterwards. One of those was behind Rogue Supremacy, who really disappointed at the Winter Castle. It just looks a bit suspect. He's more attractive at 13 to 8 than he was at 10 to 11. We could get with one bookmaker before they did the 5-day deck stage. But no, he's not the bet. No, there's a bet in this, and it's the next in the betting. It's Humidity. Balding, isn't it? Balding. Wathman, James Doyle. This one has only had one run, won it from a very highly regarded horse of the Crisfords, and those two were well clear. That Crisford horse hasn't been seen since out, but the time of that race was really good. It was by far the most impressive of the clock of any horse in this race. So I struggle to see anything else in this market worthy of a bet. You know, looking lower down the betting, a lot of leaps of faith to be made there. But Humidity, I backed it twice. I backed it win only, and I went back in each way as well. I can't help myself. No, I think Humidity is a really good bet.
Okay, yeah. I would be probably still quite interested in trying more if you can get a price like this, and might be one to have lined up to back when Shadow of Light runs, and if Shadow of Light shows that the Appleby form is just sort of, it's a variance, the results, rather than actually down to something accountable, then 13 to 8 could look very big. The reason I really say that is the only other debut Godolphin horse I've ever known go off at such a short price with such a level of confidence was Ruling Court last year, when he went off at a similar price at Sandown, and they didn't get it wrong there. So yeah, tentative, watch how the Appleby form plays out. Maybe it's worth doubling up with Rebels Romance, because if Shadow of Light goes in, then both of those could look like bigger prices. Any of the outsiders?
No, I looked at them, and it's one of those races where you kind of, not a large number of horses are trying to make a case for an outsider each way place. I couldn't quite get there. Venetian Lace for Charlie Johnson is, one win from one run, but it was a Kempton in a sort of nothing race. Fozzie Stack's bringing something over from Ireland, The Secret Adversary. That's the next to the betting, actually. That's 12. St. Mark's Basilica Colt. It's won a maiden from Italy, who was apparently highly regarded Ballydoyle inmate, but we haven't seen Italy out since. We don't know how good that is. Maybe Secret Adversary is interesting. The only other one I'd point out, merely because it's a question I have, is Waterford Castle. Waterford Castle, Rafe Beckett, Ross Orion, came third in a maiden 8 days ago. What's he doing here? I mean, what's he doing here? In other words, I kind of want to contrarian turn that around, as in, this is ridiculous, he can't possibly win, to, well, hang on, they must know something. Yeah. Unless it's, I'm just trying to look to see who the owner is, unless it's what an owner wants a badge day out in the, no, it's not, one of these sort of Middle Eastern operations that might want a runner in the Chesham. Yeah, I don't get it. But anyway, it just struck my eye. What's he doing here? Perhaps he goes. Oh, by the way, one thing before I forget, Humidity, half brother to Holloway Boy, who won.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Who won
the first time out.
And by Ulysses, so I had a step up and trip, all gorgeous from last run. Ticks every box, James. Okay.
Humidity then, 6-1 selection in the Chesham. And that is it. That will be the final race that we preview for Royal Ascot. It feels like we've probably talked about it for a collective double-digit amount of hours now. And you'd probably hope for some better results as a result of that. But it's been a pretty crazy meeting so far. It's been pretty exciting. And day 4 and 5, still plenty of time to go. Nothing in the handicaps on Saturday? No. Likewise. Okay, well, yeah, thank you very much, everyone. Please do give some feedback for how everything's gone. Please like and subscribe. Please head over for our emails and Twitter and our website. Subscribe to those. And it's been really enjoyable going through this. Daniel, one more thing, yeah.
Yes, sorry, just one more thing. And we hope to see you all for our Coral Eclipse preview. The next big group. Yeah. In Britain is not that far around the corner. We haven't yet decided whether we'll do an anti-post look to that or closer on, but yeah, watch out for that on the YouTube channel.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, keep your eyes peeled. Right, thank you very much, everyone. And yeah, speak to you soon.